Now, you will be seeing, hopefully, my slide deck, which is the same slide deck that I actually used for this presentation when I gave it to the Dynamics and Power Platform UK user group meeting in February. I did check with Connor Doyle this morning, and he gave me permission to reuse their slide deck as is. And this presentation, which I gave in February, forms part one of a two-part presentation now, which the second part we'll be doing on the 24th of June in London, if anybody's available. I think there are tickets still available for that day and for those sessions. So try and actually put yourself back to where we would have been in February. And I know that a lot has happened since then, especially with Build having just recently happened, but put yourself back to where we were then. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Sharon Smith. I'm a Dynamics 365 solution architect working at A&S Group on the BizApps enterprise delivery side of things. Yes, big loves to A&S Group. I know that I've got a few people from the team on the call, I'm sure. So what we're going to be looking at today's agenda will be starting off actually last year in the 2023 Wave 2 release, which is where we first saw hints of the changes that we'll be seeing with the new field service work order form. Then we'll be looking at the new features that came in for Sales and Customer Insights Journeys apps in the 2024 Wave 1 release, before looking at what, as of February, the future looks like and what we need to do to prepare it. And as Sarah said, we will have room for Q&A at the end of the session. So let's look at those first hints. Now, I think most of you will be really happy to learn that we're actually not going to do a deep dive into field service itself, because we will need more than the 45 minutes we've got left to unravel this into some sort of meaningful, natural language of Copilot. Instead, what we're opening up with is into the field service. I'm not using the live system, and the reason behind that is because there are certain functionalities that I don't have access to in my personal tenant. So we'll come to that later. That's why I'm actually using slide decks and not using the live system. So for those of you who aren't used to Dynamics, when you log into field service and go to navigate on the left-hand side to the work orders, you're presented with this read-only grid view of active work orders as the default option. You can, however, switch views by clicking on the show as here, where you'll then see the work order list new option available. And I actually think they've probably swapped those around now, because as we'll see, they've actually done that for what we're interested in, which is the actual new work order form as it was in February, which if you look in the top right-hand corner, you'll see that this is now actually switched around, and what was new in February is now the default, and what was old is now being shown as the legacy. So, oops, let me just take you back. So this is where things were prior to the new work order coming in, but where we're going is here. And as you can see, it's significantly different to the classic form that you're used to with Dynamics, where you would have had the timeline in the middle, 3-column standard layout of the Dynamics out-of-the-box apps. And now we come to the 2-column display, which much cleaner lines, no business process flow, and no timeline on the general tab. So we unpick this one bit at a time. Let's start off with the timelines and what happened to the timeline back in February. So now when I'm doing modeling sessions with customers to understand the most important information that they actually want users to see first and foremost. It often, and I'm sure all the other consultants who are on the call will agree with this, it seems that the answer is always, almost always everything. And in some ways, that's what the old layout was trying to do, especially with this central timeline that contains a log of the key records and activities that are associated with the records you're on, in this case, the work order. But it can lead to a very busy form that a lot of people find very user unfriendly, because you have to scroll down to access all of that information. As you can see on this particular screenshot, it's cut off. You can't see everything there. So what Microsoft's aim was with this new work order experience is to simplify how you create, manage and schedule work orders, to provide more key information in one place at a glance, where you can quickly update the fields as well. And as again, you can see here, literally everything is all just in that one view. To achieve this, it was necessary to move the timeline to its own tab. And as you can see, it's now 1, 2, 3, 4 long. It means that there's a lot more room to filter by record or activity and actually see the results alongside, which you couldn't actually do before. So I think it's a great improvement personally myself. And you'd think with all this additional room, you would also have seen some new functionality on that timeline. And indeed, there is a new timeline count that shows the number of notes in the timeline, which when I was first looking at this back in February, it seemed a bit strange to me, given that as soon as you actually click on and select one of these options, as you can see, you've got the numbers next to them. You've already actually got that count there. And you can filter it down by just selecting on one of the filter options you've got there. What's stranger is that there's actually nothing about this new feature on the Microsoft Learn doc when you're actually looking at the new work order experience. You only find out about it when you look at the list of common considerations when you're customizing the form, where it actually tells you that if you place the timeline count control on the same tab as the timeline control itself, the count doesn't actually increase automatically when you add a new note. You have to refresh the page to see the updated number. So obviously it's a control that wasn't actually meant for the timeline tab. That sounds like John's little one.
Someone else, all muted.
Lovely. So instead, where you actually find it is if you scroll down, and there is a little bit of a scroll on the new general tab on the new work order form, to the bottom of the details section on the general tab, and squeeze down right in that bottom left hand corner, you'll see the words timeline notes with a tiny weeny little small icon next to it, which if you click on it, then takes you to the timeline tab itself. Strangely, once you're actually there, it doesn't give you a filtered view of the timeline, only showing timeline notes. It just gives you the standard timeline view that we've just come from. So I really am not seeing, after, here we are now 4 months down the line, I'm still not really seeing the value this new control's providing. So I did what every good consultant now does automatically. I asked Copilot. So the essence of what Copilot's response is that it repeats Microsoft's message about the purpose of the refreshed user experience, providing more information at a glance with more visually appealing forms and fields that can be updated quickly, describes what happens when you select the number. It caveats it doesn't work on the custom entities, and finishes by explaining that it's designed to improve efficiency and productivity by providing easy access to important information and actions. Which again, doesn't actually tell us how exactly this control on the general tab is more efficient than just selecting the timeline itself. So yeah, this one's still beyond me. So clearly Microsoft's still not quite getting it right in some places. There is, however, another new functionality that makes better use of the timeline related information. And this is where I've had to use a screenshot taken from the promotional video rather than my own tenant, because the work order Copilot recap control still isn't available in a trial environment. To be able to get hands-on with it, you need to actually have a paid version. So on the face of it, the recap works in a similar way to other Copilot summaries that we're now seeing pretty much ubiquitously through all the first-party apps. It uses AI to generate a summary of the work order and its related database on the work order's life cycle stages. So if in this instance it's unscheduled, the information provided will be the requirements relevant to scheduling the work order. If the booking's been scheduled, then it'll be what's relevant to planning for the call, arriving on site, understanding what the issues are there when you get there. When it's in progress, the recap will return information relevant to its current state and what's needed to complete the work order. And then finally, you get to completed, posted and cancelled stages, with all providing a summary of the costs and prices with invoice details included once the work order has been posted. It's really quite good. I would really encourage you to, if you've got a paid version, just have a look at it and work through it. I think it is really good. Which nicely takes us through to the business process flows replacement, the dynamic booking card, which is what we were just seeing underneath that Copilot recap. This has been designed to help schedulers take that next action to move a work order through its life cycle and those 4 stages that we just talked about. So back to the old business process flow, which I was quite interested to learn had been a staple since its introduction in 2013. In most cases, they can be removed when not required, but this isn't actually quite straightforward, or not as straightforward as you might think it would be. You can't delete one that's part of a managed solution, and as we know, pretty much Microsoft's moving towards managed solutions as its staple approach to the way that we actually manage our solutions, unless you uninstall the solution itself. You also can't delete a business process flow that has dependent components such as workflows unless you remove the dependencies first as well, which again, all the consultants who are on this call will understand and be nodding their head rigorously saying, yes, obviously that's obvious. But they do take up a lot of screen real estate. They can be overly complex and can quickly become burdensome to users, repeating what you see in each stage for information that is actually already being seen on the form itself, which means that it results in them either not being filled in at all, or where it's made mandatory, just attracting, rubbish data and people putting anything in just to be able to move the stages along to get to where they need it to be. So the field service product team's answer to this is the dynamic booking card. So in the same way that recap works, the information displayed here is based on the work order's life cycle stage. Unscheduled work order, here we're seeing the booking suggestions that Copilot feels fit the required or promised time frame and the required skills. For each resource, the card shows the suggested appointment time, the travel time from the technician's previous appointment, and also gives you options of the individual technicians who can actually deliver that service that is needed, that you as, it suggested somebody, but you as the scheduler remain in control. If you feel none of these suggestions are appropriate to you, you can select on the find more availability here, and that opens up the standard scheduler system that you can actually choose a resource to book through. So again, coming back to Copilot, as ever, it's Copilot. We are always in the driving seat. Once the work order has been scheduled, the dynamic nature of the booking card updates, and it shows the allocated technician, his or her contact information, the time and duration of the upcoming call and their future appointments, and the expected time travel for each. You can actually change the next booking status, and the call can be rebooked here, as you can see, if needed. Finally, with the lifecycle status of completed, the dynamic booking card changes to show a summary of the work, including the resolution, number of products and services the technician used. If you need more detailed service report, you can generate that, and it will provide a PDF that you can send to the customer by email. And if the work order hasn't actually been posted yet, you get the opportunity to review it here and post it from here. So also with the invoice, you can review and print a copy of the invoice off here as well. And all of this does come with the caveat that for now, the dynamic card support only works work orders with a single requirement. So if you've got multiple requirements on a work order at the moment, it doesn't actually support multiple requirements. You would have to break those requirements down onto individual work orders or child work orders of a parent work order. So that's where we were effectively last November. I said, like, think about it from February, but that's actually where we were last November for field service work orders when I wrote my blog post, Relegated Timelines, and replaced business process flows. And that interest generated quite a lot of interest on LinkedIn. Most, I'd say probably 95% of the comments coming down in favour of the new form, saying that it clearly marked the happy path, being far more intuitive for users. So I think there was only one person who we had quite an interesting exchange over, who actually was defending the business process flow as is, so, which was really, really interesting. So that was back then. Let's bring ourselves up to date to where February was, with the new features that were announced in the 2024 Wave 1 release, which is what we're now seeing being rolled out since April this year. And I'm specifically, in this instance, looking at sales and customer insights journeys, and you'll see why. So the first new sales feature that I wanted to highlight from the Wave 1 release from this year actually started its life in the previous Wave release and had actually been in public preview since June 2023, so it's been hanging around for a little while. The up next, as you can see here, widget can display a set of manual steps needed to execute a sequence workflow. These are the steps from the sequence details. And it's the manual steps that you would need to execute a sequence workflow, which to my mind sounds really a lot like what you would describe a business process flow as doing. With the release Wave 1, what it's actually done is it's taken these sequence details and it's expanded it out so that now, instead of just having a single sequence, you can actually create multiple sequences that can run alongside each other. So this brings in more flexibility in the different ways that members of a team can actually work on a record simultaneously. So instead of actually, as you have with the business process flow quite often, unless you actually, have it so that you're changing the business process flow mid-flow and you're moving to another business process flow, which can be quite cumbersome, I find, is here you can have multiple sequences that actually can run alongside each other in tandem at the same time, and you will be able to see those different sequences here in this sequence details flow. Now, alongside multiple sequences, it also brings in a new preview functionality, which is what we're seeing here, which gives you the overview of the sequence steps, which team members completed the different steps, and who's due to work on the future actions, which I think is also really helpful. And this is all being promoted as a way for team members to more effectively and transparently work together on a shared account or opportunity to get a deal across the line, which is what it's all about in sales. The other thing that is, there's, again, as we said, no need for a business process flow taking up real estate, because this the details of the sequence here are on the sidebar, that once you're finished with it, you just click on that and the sidebar will retract, as we're now becoming very used to with our Copilot sidebars. So it's not just, as we are now very much seeing, about replacing the business process flow itself. Copilot itself is actually being transformed within Dynamics. And I know we have different types of Copilot now. We have Copilot for sales and Copilot for service, as well as Copilot in Dynamic Sales and Copilot in Dynamic Service. But here, what we have is a new immersive interface that is within Copilot for D365 Sales that is being described now as a seller-centric solution. Its purpose, and this is available for you to play around with in a trial environment if you want to actually spin one up, which I actually was able to do a couple of days ago, and I know that they have actually been on hold for a while. So for those of you who haven't been able to access any of the premium D365 trial apps into your own private developer environments, try again now. I was able to spin up all of them 2 days ago. Anyway, coming back to here, its purpose, the purpose of this immersive Copilot is to basically streamline and simplify the day-to-day tasks that a salesperson might be used to actually doing in an expanded workspace when effectively they log on first thing in the morning, give them a broader range of AI-generated insights immediately there. This is quite a long scroll down. You'll see that when you actually get on in there, it is quite a long scroll down. You can ask questions and have that natural conversation with Copilot that we're all now used to hearing about, to help you close deals and allow you to work so where you can stay in the flow of your work. It is at the moment, and I am expecting this to change, only a wrapper for now, because if you actually select any one of these records where we've asked this natural question here, it's brought up this list of records. If you click on any one of these records here, it will return the standard in the subgrid. It will return the standard view that you're actually used to of the lead record. So back in February, I was already saying in the presentation I gave back in February that from Microsoft's perspective, you can no longer talk about sales without looking at marketing through the same lens, with one of the key investment areas being the unification of sales and marketing to break down data silos and foster collaboration between teams. And this is one of the areas I'll be talking about in my part 2 session later this month in more detail, given the recent announcement last month of the retiring of the 3 Dynamics 365 Sales and Customer Insights certifications into the new Microsoft Certified Dynamics 365 Customer Experience Analyst Associate Certificate. Going to love that one, which is due to come in, I believe, in September 2024. But back to where things were in February, if you watch the 2024 Wave 1 release highlight video, you will see this new Copilot feature taking central stage early on, but you won't find, or you wouldn't find, any reference to it in the Wave 1 documentation back then. It was actually announced in an official blog post in January under the product tags for customer insights and supply chain management. And I can provide a link to that you can actually click on if you wanted to go and have a look at that now. But things have moved on since then. because Projects in Customer Insights Journeys is now in private preview. It builds on the Copilot features introduced in the past year with the ability, again, in this immersive interface to query data using natural language. It generates content ideas and actually creates the marketing customer segments, same language, note, sales segments, marketing customer segments, and journeys using AI. Marketers can write their campaign objectives in natural language, or you can upload an existing creative brief. The project board is then generated using the prompt or brief. It's connected to the organizational data that you have and previous campaigns, successful campaigns. Again, all of this being saved in your guardrailed SharePoint or other data repositories. So in this way, it streamlines and connects all the workflows into one place to build and manage all the required marketing assets at the same time. And this is basically what you get. So from the project board, the marketers can view the campaign's target audience and segments, as well as recommendations from Copilot for additional segments that may not have been previously considered. Segments being, for those not used to them from a marketing language perspective, these are the groups of customers that you are targeting. By selecting a suggested audience segment, a Copilot suggested audience segment, it will then automatically generate a personalized customer journey for that segment, which saves marketers a lot of time. And a partnership with Typeface that was announced enables the production of brand-aligned content, which is already the partnership with Typeface is already available in GA in the Customer Insights Journeys app. And that brand-aligned content can include themes, fonts, product images, all from a central asset library that can all be created automatically through this interface. So as I said, this is currently in private preview. It's due to be GA by the third quarter of 2024, which rather nicely aligns with when they're merging the exams, with further content curation, journey testing and metrics monitoring also on the roadmap. So, returning to our original question from everything we've seen so far, do we think that these new features and enhancements will result in the phasing out of the business process flow, was the question that I asked the audience, and I had a nice little bit of an exchange with them back in February, and I'm sure we'll have that exchange later in the Q&A at the end of this session. Well, maybe not quite yet. Probably the most well-known business process flow is the sales lead to opportunity process. And despite the introduction of sequence steps, Microsoft recognizes that there is actually still a demand for robust lead qualification that allows admins to configure it into their organization's unique needs and sales criteria. And I'm going to be really interested to see whether or not this changes in Q4. Because where we are at the moment with GA from April just gone, this agile customizable lead qualification provides the ability to add up to 7 fields for inclusion in the opportunity records created once you actually qualify the lead. So whereas before you just had to take what Microsoft was giving you, now it's actually saying you could actually select up to 7 fields off of the entities that are available on the opportunity record that you can actually then effectively get those appearing on your form when you're actually then creating that lead. You'll also be able to create multiple opportunities from a single lead. And this is one of the improvements that was actually very much celebrated at the time, the ability to create multiple opportunities from one single lead. The related records creation process can be either fully automated. I think it's down here, these two checkboxes down here. You can either fully automate it, or admins can easily configure the settings here, as you can see, where you can decide which ones you want to automate. Oh, sorry, it's up here, beg your pardon. Which ones you want to automate, or which ones you want the seller to actually to actually do. My apologies, I'm working across 3 screens here at the moment. So admins can easily configure the settings, as we see, so that the account contact and opportunity records that will be created by the qualifying seller. Sellers also get the opportunity to take advantage of a Copilot generated summary of the lead qualification on the creation of the records, capturing all that important information into the timeline. And they also get a summary added to the opportunity timeline as well. So from this, as of April, we were saying definitely not a death knell for the business process flow. Rather leveraging Copilot and generative AI capabilities to provide a streamlined, simplified and enhanced offering. So that's where we were, and that was the question, maybe, but perhaps it's not always as straightforward as it seems. The caveat here is that the business process flows are written within the Windows Workflow Foundation. For those who aren't technical, and I am holding my hand up here saying I wasn't, so there is a very big thank you to a very good colleague and friend of mine for this information. The Windows Workflow Foundation is part of the .NET framework. It's a workflow engine with a graphical designer and activities that has been the long-serving provider of multiple solution components within Dynamics and the Power Platform. This included business rules, calculated columns, and the classic workflows in Dynamics. Since announcements at, my apologies, classic workflows. Since it's, sorry. So we have Power Automate Cloud Flows in place of classic workflows now since the announcements earlier on this year. And whilst calculated columns have been available in the background since Dataverse for Teams came out, their full rollout is actually taking time. There isn't feature parity yet, I'm told, but PowerFX calculated columns have the potential to be massively more powerful than the current WWF versions. For the business process flow, though, it's less clear. So on the one hand, it now falls under the Microsoft Docs Power Automate section, if you go looking for it in Microsoft Docs. And some of its activities have been in preview for a very long time. So long, in fact, that it's regarded either development stopped in this area or that at the very least the future roadmap is under review. On the other, though, technically, it's not clear how Microsoft will transition business process flows away from the Windows Workflow Foundation. Unlike the similar look and feel business rules, whose existing behavior probably can be maintained and even enhanced with the increased capabilities of PowerFX, I do believe it's likely we'll see Microsoft moving their out-of-the-box offerings away from business process flows completely wherever they can, rather than actually trying to transform business process flows onto a different platform. And you know, their lack of deprecation of most of the other WWF components may point towards them remaining available, especially to ISVs, for adding to IPs if they wish. Now, I said that I had a very big thank you for all this information, And the big thank you is to my ANS teammate, Phil Cole, who's our Dynamic Senior Technical Consultant. And he presciently wrote about these changes during his blog post from June 2021. Most of which he wrote seems to have come true, although, as already mentioned, we've not seen the official deprecations apart from those for dialogues and task flows. So big kudos and shout out to Phil there. So where does this leave us then? What do we think the implications are for the shifting landscape for our once ubiquitous staple of the standard Dynamics business application? And how will the future direction of its interface going to transform how we and our customers gather, hold, and interact with key data for those moments that matter that Microsoft loves to quote to us? So back in February, when I was with my team's first development day for 2024, unsurprisingly, our focus was on the 2024 Wave 1 release then, with a keen eye on how Copilot was transforming the customer experience. And a strong theme that ran through that day was the importance of having high quality and well-indexed data for Copilot to access and use for its summaries and recommended actions and project boards. We need to make sure that we can actually make a business case for potential customers that they invest in this as part of the prerequisites for successful delivery of their projects. Some of the projects that I'm actually seeing at the moment that I'm going into, they are actually literally doing data cleansing at the moment. I was literally on a call yesterday where the client was saying that they had this big data cleansing project that was going on. A partner organisation we're working with said that will need to be completed before we get to QA, quality assurance testing, and the client said, well, this is something that we're needing to actually, change people's hearts and minds and ways of working. That's just not going to be possible. And I thought, absolutely, here we are, in June, and we're still having that same conversation. That conversation with clients needs to happen a lot earlier at their very, very first interaction with sales or pre-sales or whatever you call them, to get their data cleansed and their data models in place before they actually get to the point where we are going to be delivering something for them. Another insight that came out of those sessions was that we were also going to have to learn how to teach our customers' admin teams and subject matter experts how to prompt and how to get the most out of the conversations that they were going to have with Copilot. So we were all back in February going back to school with Will Dorrington's Data Science Frontiers to get better at asking those questions ourselves so that we could then signpost and pass that knowledge on. Which leads us finally to Project Sophia, which there was an article that will included on his Data Science Frontiers site explaining how the advancements of large language models, and I'm sure he's probably updated it by now to say small language models as well, grounded in an organization's own data, enabling users to interact contextually with that data through prompts, means that we should no longer need static designed user interfaces. Instead, users should be able to carry out their role engaging with a fluid canvas. And we're seeing this approach come into action from the data research perspective as it was at that time, with Microsoft's announcement then on Project Sophia. Now, Project Sophia is described as an AI-first business application designed to redefine what business apps can look like in a future powered by AI. Completely different way of engaging with your data. It's like having access to your own digital analyst with the power of rich cross-departmental domain expertise. It's designed to help users solve complex cross-domain problems, discover, visualize, interact with data in new ways, optimize processes, answer strategic questions, drive better outcomes. You really have to play with it to actually understand, how different it actually is. You start by uploading your data. You want to help exploring, or you just can simply ask a question, and Project Sophia will start a research journey for you and go out and find the data. It automatically generates what Microsoft calls blueprints, which is an information-rich building blocks designed to help provide structure to your research. It's effectively your first iteration, you could say, of the answer that you can then actually have that deeper dive of a conversation with. As you can see here, you can ask questions and generate a new blueprint or generate in place of one of these existing blocks. So you can ask a question, it will then give you the answer, and then you can just change one of these blocks or get it to redo the whole lot. There is an AI cursor as well, which is this little thing down here. That you can actually hover over any one of these data points, and you then click on that data point and do a deeper dive into any of the areas of the research journey, and that will trigger other conversations with Sophia, who will then further explore that part of it with new suggestions, new blueprints, new insights, next steps, evolve, iterate, evolve, iterate. And the AI cursor interactions are all generated using the power of large language models. So to learn more and get started with the preview, there is the link that is on the slide there, where you can watch an overview session, see a demo of it, and then try the preview out for yourself. So that's where we were in February. So to my wonderful co-travelers on the journey back in February, I gave them in perfect Donasaka-esque mode homework. So my call to action to them was to learn how to use Copilot within the Dynamics apps, which I think anybody who effectively is in Dynamics nowadays should be doing that automatically. Teach others how to use Copilot so that it's natural for them. Learn how to prompt. Teach others how to prompt. And I do remember hearing John say, and I can't remember if this was an internal conversation, John, or whether or not it was on one of your podcasts, that I believe your wife is a better prompter than you are now.
Yeah, she is.
There you go. Learn more about Project Sophia, and basically, if you're going to be with me on the 24th of June at the next UK Dynamics User Group London meeting, come and see me, come and see that session and provide feedback on your progress. And that is the presentation. Thank you. So I'll stop sharing and we can have Q&A.
Thanks very much, Sharon. That was great. I'm glad you came and brought it to VRT for us. Has anyone got any questions or comments? Go ahead, Jamie.
Hi. Yeah, great to see your presentation. I think it's lovely to hear from other people that there isn't a lot of support for business process flows. I feel that there's been a bit of a conflict between marketing and salespeople at Microsoft, and doesn't it look pretty with a disconnect from user experience? And how to put it, I'm not saying they completely can't use them, but I've always said, it's almost like sub-process, like an expense claim where you put the data in on one screen and then you just do a little bit of the extra, but as you pointed out, it's the diving between the ribbon and the form, and it just gets a bit mucky. And I've always been saying, wouldn't it be lovely if you could have the side panel actually doing something there, the old-fashioned dialogues, which were, because people kept on saying the dialogues, business process flows replace dialogues, but the different use cases for them. So it's good to see these sort of things coming through. I think the only thing I would say, if they want to keep business process flows, is something to link the stage to a tab on the form, because then as you go, it puts a different tab into focus, because then it solves the issue of where am I going, where am I looking, because that's basically what I do now. I say don't use the business process flow. I'll do a bit of JavaScript and link the status reason to a tab, and then as you open it, it opens the wrong thing. That's like my workaround for business process flows. But yeah, and think the other thing about the timelines, again, I love it. One thing that I've implemented a couple of places is, mainly because I work in a lot of regulated sectors, is having a is significant flag, because obviously those sectors have to report, they log every single phone call, every single email. But if you're just looking through it, you want to be able just to quickly see, right, which are the meaty interactions I need to see. Obviously, I can do that as a custom bit on individual activities, but because they come under the activity pointer table.
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? Activity pointer table. Yeah.
So, what would be great is, what I would love to see is some sort of a priority thing on the activity pointer to be able to sort of do that. I say, what are the conversations that mattered, as opposed to the things we just needed to record because they happened.
I suppose the way to get around that, Jamie, is effectively you end up reporting out using keywords or something like that. And it's just ways around it, and hopefully, with sort of like some AI input, as it evolves, that will be able to flag and identify the key message and the key things. Again, sort of with that sort of sector, the very loath to use any sort of AI to sort of to work to sort of like analyze stuff. They want to see everything, or have it explicitly under their control. Yeah, no, I can understand that, and we at A&S, we also work with a lot of the the regulated government sectors, and so yes, I know it certainly had an impact on how quickly we internally can actually roll out Copilot, because you've got to make sure you are really super safe, and so yeah, fully understand what you're up against there, Jamie.
Cheers. As I said, just great. It's great to see people sort of the same language as me. That's not the mark. I say I'm not a marketing brochure for Microsoft, and it's nice to hear other people saying.
Yeah, so I'd say you're in the majority, Jamie. Definitely, from what I've heard, you're definitely, and that was very much what came out of the session that did in February. Is that most people were very much coming down on the same side.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Great to hear from you, Jamie, as well. Your surname's not on there, so I wasn't quite sure. But good to have you back.
Yeah, I've got like an hour free of kids, so I thought I'd join.
Joy, I am honoured that you chose your hour free of kids to actually come and join us, Jamie. That is absolute,
absolutely. Yeah, great to
hear exactly what I'm doing. I'm right with
him. Hey, Nathan.
Hey, great presentation, Sharon. So the bit where you were talking about business rules and how they haven't been touched for a long time. I don't know if you noticed, but 2 years ago, there was in the Microsoft Docs, there was something about PowerFX coming to business rules. And I was super excited about it. And it was meant to be, it was like October, November 2022 was when it was meant to go into preview. And it just kind of quietly, completely disappeared from the Microsoft Docs. And so my guess is that they couldn't get it to work or something like that. But yeah, I'm super keen to see them do something there, because it's been around since I think like version 2013, and it hasn't changed. So yeah.
That was, I mean, having a really good chat. I mean, you would absolutely, I would strongly recommend that if he's not part of your network already, that you reach out to Phil Cole. You and he will get on like a house on fire. You really will.
Yeah, we connected on GitHub. Yeah.
And he was like, effectively, he taught and explained all of this to me, because I was talking to him about what I was doing with this presentation, and he said, oh, I wrote a post about that. And it just it really did open up, once you actually look at the technical kind of like what is happening behind the scenes. It really does actually put a completely different viewpoint to this. It's not just about, obviously there is the user interface side of things, and what we've just talked about with Jamie about how easy it is for the users to use. But it's like, taking that step back as to, well, why haven't things actually changed? Why aren't we actually seeing these changes coming through? What and as you say, clearly with business rules, it comes up, they can't get it to work. There's barriers, and then I think what's probably annoying for most of us is we would love them to actually be transparent. They talk about transparency in the marketing bump for bringing sales and marketing together, but we don't get that transparency and we just like drop it and not say anything, and not actually explain to people why we've it's been taken back, and the reasons why it's taken back. And it would be so nice to have that transparency taken, becoming a little bit more open, and not just for those who might have access to the product teams.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see what they do in that space.
Definitely, especially once we kind of like get to that Q4, and if they're going to be bringing sales and marketing together as products, potentially.
Yeah. They just took them apart not that long ago.
No. I have learned in my very short time within the space that Microsoft is very cyclical in that nature.
Yeah.
What things go out of fashion, come back into fashion. What was apart comes together, or what was together goes back apart again.
Yeah.
Thank you. I can see Anna's not on mute. If you had anything to say, Anna?
No, I'm just. I just wanted to add that I don't think that the business process flows or business rules they're gonna go anywhere soon. I'm just strong believer that they're gonna stay for a while. Especially, it wasn't the latest update, but the fact that you can dog the stage of the business process flow on the side now, this is such a great improvement. And from my experience, like working with different consultants, I just think that some people don't understand how a good business process flow should be designed. And when you have like 15 fields or stage on them within a stage, this is like totally bad design. And lots of people are actually going for it. And you have the same fields on the form, and you have the same fields on the business process flow. It's completely wrong. It's supposed to be like a visualization for a user to guide them and help them, not be like a mandatory and annoying thing. So I think that's the underlying problem with the business process flow sometimes. And with the business rules, again, as a functional consultant, I always like the idea of it, because it's that drag and drop functionality when you don't have to, even with Power Effects, it's still low code. So you do need to know the idea how would you, write even a line of code to hide and show elements. But as I said, with the business rules, it's drag and drop when everyone can, do it, and it's much easier and straightforward from our perspective. And again, workflows might happen if the low code plugin will come to place, but even now I'm working with a massive government department, and their entire system relies on like over 200 workflows. So if Microsoft will put an announcement, oh, we're not going to support it even in a year time or something, it's just going to be worth so much investment for that department to kind of move away and redesign the whole system. And I don't think the Microsoft is going to be brave enough for a long time to kind of drop that bomb on us. And this is kind of what I think.
I think you're not wrong in that latter. It's I think, that's why we haven't, as Phil said, even though, you have, like with calculated columns and things like that, you do have now, Power Effects or alternative, you're just not seeing them deprecating the WWF side of it, so it may be that you'll see duality of both rather than, for a very long time.
Yeah, it's just like they almost, everyone knew that comes to Power Platform, use that, and they're just gonna hope for like all of us who've been working with Dynamics for a few years for us to retire, and they're gonna like retire the functionality with us. This is what the big plan is for them. And to be honest, like I never work with the field service. I mainly work with customer service and sales. So it's good to see, the changing the main, like the work order. But again, I'll be talking about it more in a couple of times to the same forum about kind of my practices. So I barely ever go with the native apps. I always create a custom app that is based on the native app, and the same, I would very rarely even use the out of the box forms. I will build my own, and purely to stay away from any automated updates to the forms and to the apps, and and put something to the users that weren't tested. And I know that there's lots of customers, they having their own wave releases management, but I don't think it's executed very well either. But overall, like I love your presentation, Sharon. I'm so glad that I put on hold what I was doing and I joined in. So very well done. Sorry for just ranting about this and that.
And then thank you for your contribution. I mean, it's absolutely so valuable. And I am going to put in a request for a good practice on business process flows cookbook, please, because I think it would go down really, really well.
Okay. Well, yeah, definitely good. Definitely good idea. Definitely good idea. So yes, thank you for that.
Add it to your long list, as I'm sure you've got a very long list of requests of what.
Yes,
what people would like.
I'm getting them quite a lot. But yeah, I would to be honest, I would like to spend more time, looking into UX and UI, and that's again ahead of my couple of sessions. So yes, even now I'm working to some like accessibility assessment. So if anyone has a knowledge of undertaking a proper accessibility assessment, please let me know. I would appreciate some help. I'm using that tool, Accessible Web Helper, but yeah, it's quite a lot. It's quite a lot. So yeah.
Yes, if anybody can help Anna out in this respect, then please do make sure that you reach out to her.
Jamie's volunteering already.
Oh, I hope that's a hands up. Yes, come and talk to me.
I've had those headaches, believe me. So yeah, just drop us a message. Or Sarah's got my details.
Can I know Jamie's second name? Because sorry, I don't recognize.
Hurst, H-I-R, Jamie Hurst, H-I-R-S-T.
Thank you.
Sarah's got my details anyway.
Yeah, I'll do a little an intro. Yeah.
Wonderful.
A little birdie tells me, Anna, there's a user group coming soon.
Yeah, like I need to have a word with Charlie. I need to have a word with Charlie. Only tomorrow we have like a call to talk about the launch, and yeah, the word is out already. So yeah, yeah, it's
Oh,
officially
I won't
registered
tell
on.
anyone.
It's officially registered on Microsoft. We have a beautiful logo. So yeah,
Wonderful.
Sounds great.
yeah.
Yes, congratulations on that as well.
Thank you.
Sharon, was a great session. Thank you so much for the time today.
Oh, thank you, Nanny.
Yeah,
So
it's nice.
wonderful. It's wonderful. We will definitely, for those of you who aren't able to get down to London for the 24th, Sarah and I will definitely actually do a rerun of that session at some point in the future. So yes, I've just got to write it now.
Have we booked a date in for that?
Not
I
yet.
can't
No.
remember. I haven't got my
No.
spreadsheet. Okay.
No, we
Yeah,
haven't.
no, I'll do a follow-up for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't wait to come down to London.
No.
Literally just going to go and just speak to people all day. Just
I know. It's going to be so good.
might not
It's gonna be
make
so
any
good.
sessions. I'll come
know.
to yours. Oh, fab. Right, I'm going to let you all go. But yeah, lovely,
Yes,
brilliant
thank
session,
you very
Sharon.
much, everybody. It's been
As
really
expected.
enjoyable, really special. Yeah. We'll
Thank
see you all soon.
Yeah.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Great to see everyone. And
Yeah,
John, I've
bye.
seen way
Bye.
too much of you this today.
There's never enough. There's never enough for me.
Thank you, Kelly.
Right, have a lovely evening, everybody.
later.
Take care.
Bye. All.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye.